Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Vessel and Voice Podcast. I'm your host, Kim Charlson, and in today's episode, we're answering the question, how can you create more money through ease in your life? So let's get into it. I want to open today's podcast with a bit of honesty about this message that Monty channeled. When we first recorded it, I was so in the zone. I was so delighted with what was coming through. And then went after we were done channeling the message and found that the recording had not saved at all. But in my own time of reflecting on the message, and what you'll hear today is basically exactly the same thing. And in fact, I think it is a little bit clearer, a little bit better than what came through the first time. It made me realize the ways that I am changing who I am in order to create money in my life. Especially the part where Monty's going to talk about how if we view money as a means of having power or creating oppression, we believe that we create it through self-oppression. And this is not a belief that I really would have thought like, oh, money to me means oppression, me means power, until I look at how I behave when I start wanting to create more money. What that has meant for me is being somebody that overperforms. I've always hustled, worked hard, shown up, been overly consistent, focused on perfection. And all of that required that I fit within very specific parameters I created for myself of how I could create money and success. And how that can show up even still is today when I post something on social media and it doesn't go as far, I want to pick it apart and figure out, how could I change what I created to make it even better so that way it can go further so I can make more money? How can I change my way of behaving and being to create more wealth in my life? And when it comes to money, that conditioning actually runs quite deep for me of that self-oppression, that instead of allowing myself to be the expression of my soul and trusting that money is going to come as a result of that, I look at the ways that I can optimize and strategize my life to produce more wealth with more ease, because that conditioning tells me that's the way forward. So over the last week since we recorded it and it didn't take the first time, I've spent a lot of time really thinking about and untangling this energy in myself of where are the places in my own energy that I'm actually oppressing myself, where I'm actually keeping myself in that box of somebody else's creation, somebody else's judgment of what it means to be successful. What Monty talks about in today's message is a different perspective of that how we decide to create money in our lives is actually a reflection of who we think we are and who we think we have to be. And it's often reinforcing a story within ourselves that we have to be smaller, we have to be better behaved, as it were, just to be able to receive not only what we need, but also what we would desire in life. And I'm still very much learning how to operate in this way of creating from a position of self-trust and freedom with myself to allow myself to show up in this way, rather than over-strategizing, over-optimizing, and trying to figure out the best way to create, because that's very limited versus the limitless potential of my soul could allow me to create so much more with so much more ease. But it involves a lot of surrender and a lot of trust. So I hope today's message is a gentle nudge for you in the same way it was for me, of evaluating your behaviors when it comes to creating money in your life and how you think you need to behave versus that little niggle inside of yourself that says, hey, what if we tried this instead? So let's hear from Monty of the wisdom he has to share in this channeled guidance on money. We are delighted to bring to you a deeper understanding of how money works. In our previous episode about money, we explained that money is pure energy and that it serves a purpose as transferring energy through physical means from one place to another. But the second part of what you need to understand to cultivate more wealth and abundance in your life through money is that money is a reflection of your self-identity and the state of being that you are creating within yourself. It is important to understand this because, as you have acknowledged in your world, money can take on many different forms. Money can be used in a positive way or a negative way. And as such, you give money different qualities. But those qualities are also a reflection of how you feel about yourself and the state of being of who you are. To explain this in more detail, let us explain the different versions of money as a tool for oppression and money as a tool for freedom, and how those may show up within your own energy as your own state of being. So let us first begin with money as oppression, as a tool of oppression. If you believe that money is a tool of oppression, you will, in your own way and habit of creating money, use oppression to realize wealth within your life. What this can look like is that money requires for you to have more of it in your life, that you behave in certain ways, that you proceed in certain manners, and so you make sure that you act in accordance to those manners. But what it truly is that you believe that you are oppression. You are in a state of being of oppression. You are maintaining your own energy within certain modes of being, of creating, of behaving that are strictly confined. For example, if you believe that the best way that you could create money in your life is by joining a corporate position, corporate has specific rules of behavior, certain ways of being that are very unique to that particular energetic world. And so, for you to be successful in that world, you believe that you must adhere to those specific modes of behaving, those ways of being, and change the state of who you are to match those restrictions, those oppressions. And rather than being a full expression of your soul and who you are, you become an expression of that oppression, of those restrictions. And it becomes that your beingness no longer is connected to you and your state of being, but to the environment that you are in, that you believe you must adhere to in order to obtain money. And because money in human creation has such an outsized impact, it is a very close reflection of who you believe that you are and who you believe you must be and who you are actually being. That if you believe that money is a tool of power over others, that the pathway to gaining that is to have power over yourself, to allow yourself to live in that state of oppression. You are not free even of your own being. You must adhere to specific modes of behavior in order to obtain money. Now, if instead you believe that money is a tool of freedom, and that is truly your belief, and how you behave, and how you are viewed in the world, that means that instead of complying with a specific set of rules or oppressive restrictions, that you allow yourself to be a free expression of your soul. That it can be rather that you allow yourself to create in whatever mode you wish to create, when you wish to create, how you wish to create. And that is truly what freedom is. Freedom is the choice that you make to create how you want, when you want, using what means you want. And that means that you are allowing yourself to be who you want, where you want, when you want. That you get to be the fullness of the expression of who you are. That you allow your soul to be fully expressed in that freedom, because freedom truly is the expression of your soul in that way. That instead of constricting your soul into certain ways of behaving, you instead pride yourself on being someone who is creative, who finds innovations and solutions, oftentimes that do not make sense to anybody else than you, but that's what you want and what you desire, and so you act on it. And if you view money in that way as a means for freedom, and that is your state of being, then money is easy for you to obtain through those modes of creation, of allowing yourself to be who you are, when you want, how you want. Both can be successful of the opinion of oppression or the opinion of freedom. Both of those can be pathways to success, but one is likely to be much easier than the other in some ways. The state of oppression is difficult to maintain because it requires a state of internal judgment, of internal restriction all the time, of allowing yourself to operate through shame and guilt, allowing yourself to say, this is how I should behave, and not allowing yourself to truly pursue what you desire, but instead functioning within that oppression. And if you are very good at functioning within that oppression and aligning yourself with that oppression of the externalized opinions of what that should be, then you can create quite a great deal of wealth within yourself. Just as the same as if you allow yourself to be creative and innovative and fully expressed, that can very well create copious amounts of abundant wealth as well. Both can be successful, but without having to police yourself, without having to constantly oppress yourself, you can be more at ease, and that is why one may be preferable to you than the other. And that depends on your state of being and who you are within and what you wish to be. So in looking at your relationship with money right now, a way that you can work with money is instead of saying, I need to figure out who I am being, and then that is the way that I can create money. Instead, ask yourself what you believe about how you need to be to earn money, of the methods that you need to follow to earn money. Oppression can be something like behaving a certain way in a job, of adhering to certain manners, certain ways of behaving, certain ways of operating, and making sure that you are constantly in that way of behaving and performing those tasks according to that way. But it may be an environment that you create within yourself without any external version of what that should be. It could be that you are someone that creates many lists and prides yourself off of checking off those different lists, items, and saying, I have done all the things that I should do, versus freedom. Maybe that instead you have a list, but that list evolves and changes and grows according to your desires. And rather than following things in a certain pattern based off of that version of oppression, we will say, you allow yourself to be in that state of free flow with your soul and allow your desires to dictate what you do. Both of them require discipline, but they are a different kind of discipline. Because freedom also requires the discipline of always listening to yourself first versus external means. Always allowing yourself to follow the nudges and the desires of what you want and when you want it, while trusting that it will work out and surrendering to those opportunities and fully giving yourself over to those things as they happen. That it also trusts in a certain level of uncertainty, and that state of being requires a very different type of self-discipline. Now, when looking at both of those, of saying, how is it that I believe I have to show up to my career, to my work, to make money? What is it that I believe I must do? And that is indicative of who I believe I am. Not necessarily what you believe about how you need to create money, because that is only an indicator of what you believe about your state of being. Money is a reflection of who you are. So, in that way, ask yourself, what is it that I believe I must do or believe that I need to be to earn money? What are the different signs of that in my life? Am I making lists and sticking with them and making sure I behave in a certain way? Am I allowing myself to be the expression of what I want, when I want, how I want? Or is it completely different? Because those are only two examples. Money is a reflection of all of the different states of being. So those two examples are just two of an infinite number of self-reflections that money could give you. So asking yourself after listening to this episode, how do I believe that I need to be and behave to create money in my life? And how is that a reflection of who I think I am or who I need to be? And is that in alignment with my soul and what I feel intuitively within myself about who I really am? And as you find and discover that there are parts for every individual, that there are learned behaviors about how to interact with money that are not in accordance with your soul, Allow yourself to see where those are out of accordance and ask yourself where those thoughts and behaviors came from. Are they things that you need to work through, to resolve and heal within yourself? Or is it that you can merely change your state of being and get to it at the root and then allow that to go out into your behaviors and way of operating in the world? We send you great love as we are exploring this topic of money with you, as we know that this is a topic that is very difficult for most humans because money is seen as a finite resource. And that is our last point of reflection we would like you to think about. If money is a finite resource to you, and that only so much of it is available, and that you are from that position, that is also the perspective that you are limited. You are a finite resource. And we would ask that you connect with your soul and ask whether or not that is really true, because you will quickly find that you are an infinite being with access to infinite energy, which also means that money can be limitless. We send you great love. That is all. In hearing and listening to Monty's message, the thing that sticks with me the most is that money is a reflection of who you are being. And for me, a lot of it has been understanding that I always felt like I needed to be somebody other than me. And what I would do to replicate success from other people is I would study what other people were doing and say, wow, that worked for them. They got amazing results. So I'm going to take that same methodology and apply it in my own way to my own life. And what that was constantly saying was you need to be somebody else than yourself. That's how you can be successful, is by replicating somebody else's way of being, way of behaving, way of acting. And that's going to get you where you want to go. And if I'm honest, a lot of the time I still struggle with this. And I also struggle with the belief that my worth in life comes through my effort. My ability to gain money comes through effort and showing up and doing the work, even when I don't want to do it. And that freedom is bought through exhaustion, and that things like joy and pleasure have to be earned rather than they're just something I get to have and to be because I exist. So as I'm thinking about Monty's message and the guidance that he shares, I start to ask myself other questions like, how could I instead embrace who I am and let that be the guide of my direction rather than trying to be the reflection of somebody else? Why can't I be myself? And what does that really truly look like? And what would it mean to follow my desires instead of some over-optimized to-do list that I've created for myself? And as you're listening to this and reflecting on it, I want to say we need to make sure that we are all giving ourselves grace. We are in a system, especially around money, that wants to create oppression and control because it's how we believe we survive. So you're not broken in how you've related to money or in how your internal being is showing up and being reflected in money back to you. You are absolutely allowed to change this, and that is fully within your power because you can change who you're being at any time. You don't need permission from anybody. So know that I think all of us are on this journey together. Nobody's mastered it because we're all trying to figure out how to be more ourselves, be more in alignment with our souls every day and in every way. I hope that this episode was helpful. And if you would like to begin to apply this in a more personalized way, you can join Monty and me for a one-on-one session where we can dig deep into your state of being and what Monty can offer some more personalized guidance for you. We'll see you in the next episode.